How's it going, guys? So today is a very important day. It is currently February 20th, and today we have 7 players' contracts that are set to expire due to the fact they have a bit of void years on their contract. So first off, the 7 players that are currently expiring contracts today are Adrian Amos, Dean Lowry, Jaron Reed, Randall Cobb, Mercedes Lewis, Mason Crosby, and Robert Tonyan, with Adrian Amos having the biggest potential cap hit or dead money at $7.9 million. So what this is essentially saying is these 7 players currently are set to have expiring contracts, but they have a couple void years in their contracts and where the Packers are going to have to pay up. Teams do tend to do this. It seems to be a lot more prevalent currently, depending on where a team stands, whether it's trying to get under the salary cap or they're in win now mode, which we were for the past couple of years, and our window is pretty much dwindled. And with that, it allows a team some cap flexibility, especially with your high price contracts, and allowing to spread that contract over multiple years instead of having a bigger number up front, and pretty much allow you to reload for your team to try to make that Super Bowl push. And so the reason why today is important is because the Packers have to make a decision today with these 7 players. And some of these players are currently players that we are on the fence if they could come back depending on what they negotiate. The biggest one is Adrian Amos. Yes, his play declined last year. He did not play up to par. But a safety is currently a very big need for us. And veteran safeties aren't getting paid very much. He is still a good locker room presence for us. And he could actually still be needed on this team even with his decline in play last year. So if we look at Adrian Amos's contract here, in 2021 he restructured to allow some alleviating salary cap problems for us and to spread out his contract. So if you see from 2023 to 2026 there are void years. So that is pretty much a little fluff piece. It allows a team to essentially, instead of paying the total of their signing bonus over the year of 2021 and 2022, which would have been a high cap hit, they add these void years to the contract. So they added 4 void years. So that has allowed them to, let's say it's a $20 million contract. Instead of paying $20 million signing bonus and a cap hit for 1 year, you'll spread it over 5 years, which will allow $4 million to hit each single year. Now, this doesn't save the team any money. It just helps some flexibility in the current year. But eventually, a team is going to have to pay up. And when that first void year hits, they're going to have to pay the rest of that salary cap hit. Now, this doesn't allow teams to save money or anything of that sort of nature. It just allows flexibility in the current year and potentially in the next year, depending on how the contract is set up. Eventually a team is going to have to pay up that signing bonus, and when that first void year hits, that money is due. So a team will need to either pay up that year or they can try to negotiate and re-sign the player to try and pretty much continually kick the can further down the road. So there are multiple reasons a team can do this or why they choose to do this. Obviously the biggest one, they're in win now mode and they're trying to win a Super Bowl, so they want to pretty much bolster their roster with as many talented players as they can. But also it makes some sense. So like a few days ago we signed Aaron Jones and they added some void years to his contract to alleviate the cap hit. We're not entirely in a win now mode, especially when they restructured and re-signed, or they just restructured his contract. We're not exactly in a win now mode because we don't even know if Aaron Rodgers is coming back or if we're just going to move on with Jordan Love. But it still makes some sense because A, Aaron Jones is pretty much the main cog in our offense, and B, with the way the salary cap goes up, you're pretty much banking on the salary cap going up. So $5 million cap hit this year is not going to be the same as $5 million cap hit 2 years ago or 2 years later when that salary cap number is going up. So it's taking a less percentage of the cap as well. So there are multiple reasons to do this. It's just you're going to have to pay up eventually, and you're creating future problems for yourself. And so it is definitely a tight line you have to kind of waddle between, because you don't want to just extend everyone with the void contracts, because then you're just setting yourself up for failure. But depending on where your current situation is now, it might be necessary, especially since you're going to try to go for a Super Bowl run or your cap space is terrible and you want to resign a couple key veterans or future veterans. So coming back to the start, we have 7 players currently that contracts are going to void today, especially if they don't get restructured. Adrian Amos is going to account for $7.9 million towards cap. Dean Lowry, $3 million. Jaron Reed, $1.5 million essentially. Randall Cobb, $1.4 million. Mercedes Lewis, $1 million. Mason Crosby, another $1 million. And Robert Tonyan, $500,000. And if none of these players get re-signed, all this will hit our cap and will essentially just be dead money. But if they do decide to re-sign a player, it could slightly kick that can a little further down the road again, but it won't mean so much to our cap as it would this year, as it could mean 2 years from now. But it's definitely a decision that the team is going to have to make today. So we might have some moves being made today, or we could just let all 7 go. But definitely something to keep an eye on today to see what happens with the organization and what they decide to do. But let me know what you think down in the comments. If you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and as always, go Pack Go.